Kirk's giving guitar lessons later.
So what is that extra work for you?
Extra work for Chip setting up that. Extra work for me getting a brand new guitar ready to give him.
But it's all worth it at the end of the day, right, Justin?
Of course.
Of course.
It was 2 days in Boston.
Yeah.
Red Sox won last night.
Woohoo! You gonna win again tonight? Probably. I got money on it.
Stand on that switch,
Playing
Nick.
Indian poker on TV.
There you go.
So live Metallica tonight. Gonna be some good downloads.
No, we can't do the show. I can't get the box open.
So this is the reason we're looking at right now. If you would get it open, they would have live Metallica.
This is the real reason it doesn't go up. Don't believe that phony reason that we put up on the
site. This one's been handled special.
Yeah.
This is the reason why we can't have the show up, see?
Nice.
Who's the hardest guy to please when it comes to food?
They're all really easy.
Sure.
We that
Political correct.
politically correct.
Yeah.
Full up.
They're the easiest guys ever.
And the nicest guys you ever met.
The easiest I have to say is Kirk, because he always knows exactly what he wants to eat.
And that is?
Usually Asian, vegetarian.
Not too much meat.
Yeah, no, not too much meat.
And how about Lars? He's easy too?
He's always easy. Sushi or Indian. That's it.
And James?
He does whatever he feels like.
And Trujillo?
Sometimes he doesn't order food after the show at all. He eats what's here.
Yeah. You think they're talking about the band? I didn't say that.
This is your beautiful guitar lesson.
Oh wow, man! Dude, I've never played a lick in my life. So.
Hey, but you know what? We'll get you playing something.
All right, that's cool.
We'll figure it out.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you don't just leave it open yet. You got the rhythm down, so what you want to do now is...
Chubbs is an artist now.
It's so nice that the head of security made a nice little ode to his boss in his hotel room last night.
I had nothing better to do on my day off.
I just want to say that there was this one scene in the movie where you guys were recording. I think you had a manager that came in, and he said, "I can imagine you guys playing the song in front of 60,000 people like 2 years from now." And it fast forwarded. And it went, to the concert, I think, last summer for the Summer Sanitarium. And it showed Metallica playing on stage, and I did a crowd shot right in front, and Nick and I were right in front. So I thought that was amazing, that I just could be in the same movie as Metallica. I don't know.
You guys?
Yeah.
So was that in Germany? Or was it...
No, it was like a U.S. show or something. I don't know.
Was it, because there's a bunch of footage from German shows, and there's a bunch of footage from either here or Philly.
It was
here.
Foxborough? Yeah, Foxborough Stadium. It was sick. We were just blown away. We were like, oh, that was us.
Dude, I'm in the movie.
I know.
We were like dead tired looking over the
We're like, our 15 minutes of fame right there. That was awesome.
Cool, man.
Music has changed drastically. Do you think musicians today have gotten better, or are they worse than what they were in 1981?
That's a great question. I think that you could probably slightly alter the question and say, what about the audiences? Because I think a lot of what the musicians are doing really ends up being kind of a reflection of what the audience wants.
Yeah,
so if you sit down and say, for instance, okay, in the 70s, 60s and 70s, you had a lot of, bands that were doing a lot of progressive, what now a lot of people would call maybe self-indulgent stuff, like your Led Zeppelins and 15-minute guitar solos and drum solos and all that type of stuff. But people back in that time were maybe a lot more receptive to that kind of thing and maybe more interested in it. I think that's a great question, and we could probably take up the whole time just talking about that. I mean, there's so much of that has to do with also the way information travels now with computers, with the internet, with people, with television, with people's short attention span, with all that type of stuff. Maybe even, I know this might sound kind of funny, but maybe even with choices of recreational drug use. I mean, seriously, back then, like, dude, stone, I'm stoned. Jimmy Page is playing a 15-minute guitar solo. Wow, trippy, But nowadays, it's like a lot of people I don't think has the attention span for that type of stuff, So everything seems to get shorter. You have to try and say more in a shorter amount of time. And I think that maybe because of that, what maybe a lot of us older generation that we grew up on was about musicianship. You sit down and you talk about musicianship, Bonham or Jimmy Page or Richie Blackmore, Neil Peart, or some of these virtuoso players. It's like people don't really care so much about that stuff anymore because maybe somehow it just kind of got lost as everything got sped up, and maybe even we were a little bit to blame for speeding everything up. Do you know what I mean? So I think musicianship. It's a great question. I think nowadays it has a lot. I was talking to somebody the other day about who was talking about rap music, and whatever you think of that is secondary to the fact that maybe, like for instance, in the rap world, it's maybe not so much about just the artist, but also about the producer. Do you know what I mean? And so nowadays, I think a lot of it has to do maybe less with the musicianship and more about the craft of songwriting, the craft of production, the craft of making records and making music that people want to hear. Even look at our last album. It's not, radio didn't get the same reception as a lot of our earlier stuff simply because it was a harder record to listen to. Do you know what I mean? So radio, I think, is certainly going through a period of being very conservative right now, and I think that things like musicianship and so on is certainly secondary to more production, the craft of songwriting, and people's shorter attention span. That's a great question, by the way. It's a nice departure from what's it like to tell me about some kind of monster. What's it like to be back in Boston?
Nice.
I've been here in half an hour.
Nice. Since Metallica formed in 1981, they've been through some really tough times, with Cliff dying in a tragic accident, Jason leaving, and, James' stint in rehab, and, the question of the band's future. What do you think was, the hardest time for you to go through? Like, even if it wasn't one of those times, maybe something else.
That's a great question also. Wow, you guys, is there a job for this guy somewhere? What do you do for a living?
I'm going to be an architect.
Right. Good, okay. That's good. No, I love when people think and come up with different stuff. Great question. Well, first of all, I'd probably say that when you say we've gone through a lot of hard times, I mean, let's all put that in perspective. I mean, hard times, sure, it's been difficult with some of those things that you mentioned, but at the same time, let's also balance it out by acknowledging how fortunate we are and what an amazing ride it's been, and how lucky we've been to, first of all, do what we want to do, but also play music that people care about and get a chance to travel and all that stuff. So obviously losing a brother like Cliff was difficult, but at the same time, we were probably emotionally still so underdeveloped that it probably, if that kind of thing happened today, it would be a completely different thing. Do you know what I mean? Back then, you just kind of, anything that didn't agree with you emotionally just drank away. You just made it disappear by drinking. You know what I mean? So obviously, with what we went through a couple of years ago with Jason and with Hetfield going to rehab and so on, was a little more difficult to deal with because we're in a different place. But I would say that obviously it was pretty difficult back in the day when James Hetfield did his pyro stunt there when he ran around in Montreal on fire up on stage. That was not so easy to deal with in the aftermath of that. But I would say that I'm pretty proud of the fact that most of the time when we've hit hard times, we all kind of pull together and reach. And I'm proud of the fact that I think we reach, I won't say deeper than some of our peers, but I think that if some of the other bands that we grew up with had the same, survival instinct or something that we have, maybe more of them would be around, you know, and because we've always, whenever shit hit the fan, we've always just dug as deep as we needed to go to try and come out on top, you know, and so I think that we've always done that, and I'm proud of that. But obviously some of those experiences have been emotionally difficult to deal with, but at the same time, once again, we have to put it in perspective. You know, and so overall, I think considering that it's been about 150 years or whatever, it's been a pretty fun ride and a pretty positive one, and one that has been, apart from some of those things you talked about, you know, been certainly the positive outweighed the negative.
Yeah.
Please jump in the fire. Okay. At least a verse or chorus or riff.
A verse or chorus or riff?
If not the whole song, at least
right now or on stage?
Both. Both would be cool. My buddy.
Do you have an auto tune in that thing?
My buddy met you guys in Amsterdam back in December. He took his leave in Iraq.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. They remember him. To get this one signed to the whole band. That's a relic.
That is just like us.
Yep.
Yep. Relic.
Jump in the Fire was the first Metallica tape I ever had.